The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of providing an opportunity to the public to express themselves on school-related matters of concern to the residents of East Brunswick. To allow for a fair and orderly public comment period in accordance with Board Policy 167, individual comments are limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public are reminded that this is a public televised meeting of the Board of Education, and to protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students and staff members should generally be addressed by first meeting with the appropriate administrative staff, according to New Jersey Statute 10-412B. Is there anyone that would like to address the Board of Ed this evening? Seeing none, we'll close that section and move on to our action items. I'd like a motion to accept items A2 through A4. Please note that there are no minutes, so A1 is omitted, and A5 was removed if you're looking at an old agenda.
So moved.
Mrs. Becker and Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Becker?
Two of the things we are approving are a gift from the PTAs, one at Bow Monroe and one at Elementary. And I just wanted to thank both of these PTAs. It's an enormous amount of work to raise this kind of money and to do such good things with it. The technology is so crucial and so essential, and we just can't thank you all enough for all your hard work.
Mr. Simmons?
It's a question for probably Ms. Ruggiero. Are we full staffed for the fall, or are you still working on positions through the summer? How is that looking? Oh, yeah, you got to come up. Everybody wants to hear. It's breaking news. And I know I ask you this every year.
No, I'm happy to answer the question. So the good news is we participated in many in-state and some out-of-state recruitments, and we yielded a great number of quality candidates. We are very well staffed. However, this is the time of year where we find that someone may be going on leave, or there may be an expansion position that needs to be filled. So it is fluid. We're in a great position. We have very few positions left to fill. And we're also nearly finished with staffing for ESY. So we're excited.
All right.
Got a nice crop coming in September.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Mr. McAvoy?
We're just doing A's right
We're
now?
just on A.
Oh, I thought we were the whole agenda. Whoops. And now I have to ask you later.
Okay, I guess we'll do a roll call then.
Yes. Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Here. Oh.
You're voting on A2 to A4.
Abstain?
You can vote if you read it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 2 before. Yes. Sorry.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Phillipsek?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes. Okay. Is there any items in the educational items B1 through 10 that need to be separated? Okay, I'd like a motion to accept items B1 through
So moved.
B10. Mr. Simmons, Mrs. Shaw, is there any discussion? Need a roll call?
Well, we have discussion, but I refrained.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Colleagues on
I
the left
missed you.
side.
You don't look this side anymore, yeah. Oh, that's right.
I didn't see you, too short.
Just ignore Mary. Ignore Mary. Okay, so on B3, the approval of contracts for student services providers. Every year, we usually bring up the fact that there is a bit of a discrepancy in what seems to be charges for the same exact services. I'm aware of how specialized sometimes we need to be, but there was two that were kind of glaring, and I was wondering, I guess, Lou, if you could speak on it for a minute. On page 15 of 43, first, the psychological evaluation services. range from $770 to $2,000. I'd like to think that $2,000 evaluation one is very, very specialized. Otherwise, why wouldn't we just go with the one who is one-third cost?
Well, we would absolutely go with the one that is more prudent in terms of financial components. But some are utilized that when others cannot address the needs of certain students. It may be availability, it may be placement, there may be other issues involved. But we like to have a Plan B and a Plan C if necessary, but we would always utilize the one that's more fiscally responsible first,
Yeah.
foremost.
I'm all for Plan A, B, C, et cetera, and everything. That one just seemed to be such a difference that I was just hoping,
It's for specific needs that certain students
that's
would
what I was
have.
hoping you were going to say.
But again, it's limited, so our usage of that would be limited to those students.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Shaw?
I was looking at item B2, which is the English literacy and civics education grant, and noticed that we are applying for funding that's about $20,000 higher than what we received last year. It says that last year, in fiscal year 2015, the grant totaled $150,490. And this year, we're applying for, I believe it's $169,000 and some change. Is the application based on the number of students, or does it just basically reflect an increase in the costs to run the program?
If you don't mind, I can answer.
Yeah.
It's based on the funding level made available by the state, and it's also based on enrollment. So it's a consolidated grant with several districts, and we apply together and based on the enrollment of number of people in the program and also the state funding. In the past, we have.
So state funding therefore has actually increased
Well,
for this particular
I don't want
program?
to dampen the fact that we're eligible for $20,000 more, but be aware in the past, we've been told X number of dollars, and then as the year's gone on, it's been reduced. So it's all
Haven't received
based
full
on
funding.
the funding that they think is available versus the
So
actual.
this is one of those grants that isn't necessarily fully funded, unfortunately.
I
We're
have
hopeful,
a
though.
related question,
Yes.
if I can jump in on this one before you move to another one.
okay.
On B2. So these are programs that are offered through community programs. And so what is that, the grant serves to reduce the student contribution?
No, there's two functions of the community programs office. You have your enterprise functions, after school, adult, the other programs, early morning, early learning academy. Then there's this grant, which is for, it could be GED, the civics grant. So they run two parts there. You
So
have
is
the
there a
enterprise
charge?
with parent paid. I believe there's a small fee for the GED program. I think it's $10, and that's state mandated.
Okay, so basically the grant serves to write down the cost for participants. Otherwise, if not for this grant, we would
Correct.
either, and it's not a mandate on the district to provide this, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the district is contributing, and it's a great program, by the way. I know people have been through it. So the district contributes a match of 77, I can't see the number, but 77,500. So that comes out of our budget, or is that collected back through fees?
Basically, this grant requires a match, and we're providing the space free of charge. So based on our fee schedules, we calculate how many square footage, how many classrooms that the grant is using to teach at night, because it's all night and weekend courses, and we allocate what that cost is. So there's no impact on
So it's not out of
pocket, but we're providing the
It's for
space
space
free of
usage.
charge.
So that
Correct.
77,000 is for the space
And
usage.
that's
Yeah,
considered
and
the
it's a
match.
wonderful program, it's a great service to the community, so I'm very supportive of the program. I just wanted to understand how it's funded.
Another one. Under item B8, we're taking a look here at out-of-district placements and services, and one of our students is being approved for EduSeer virtual education for a student on home instruction. And to my recollection, this is the first time I've seen a virtual education program approved for one of our students. And I'm wondering, how is this student going to be monitored for compliance and progress?
Do you want to speak to that?
Okay, what page are you on, just so I can check?
It's
24.
item
43 or 43.
B8.
24, page 24.
Actually, it's
The computer's not
Actually,
that fast. I'll tell you
Our
what.
our new agenda is page 23 of 43. That's all right.
Here it is.
And which item are you looking, I'm sorry?
B8, which is out-of-district placements and services, and the last student listed has been approved for a
The DDD?
virtual.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that this is a student that we had issues with stabilization, and that the instruction would have to, because based on a mental illness issue, this was considered the best and the most genuine way to work with this student.
So do we
Educationally.
have members of the child study team or a case manager or someone who
That
will
works,
be
that
monitoring
will
the
be working
student for compliance?
with
and-
with EduShare Virtual Education, yes.
Mhm.
And,
Is it somebody that's actually provided through that company, or is it
well,
someone
they have a
who's on our
representative,
staff?
and we have someone that also will work with them to monitor, because we also have to look at the impact, the social emotional impact, and all the other components for that student as well.
And that was actually, part of my question, is it seems rather critical that, we provide the social and emotional learning as well, because the $780 cost is actually pretty economical in comparison to, many of our others. But, that human touch.
Extremely important.
Really, really important.
Great.
Okay. That's all I have on the items. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McAvoy.
My question was on B3 as well, and Mr. Figueroa, if it is a repetition of what Mrs. Becker said, I did not hear the opening comments made by my distinguished colleague. The psychiatric evaluation services, was that what you
Yes.
brought up, Mr. Becker?
Yes.
The
Yes.
doctor's fees?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and
That's
as okay, you're all right with that?
I am, I just found, I want to go on record, I found those numbers to be, they just weren't consistent. And so you're telling me that we can get one particular doctor for $275 per evaluation, the other doctors want twice as much. It's different evaluations.
Right, and
Thank you.
we would use the more economical whenever possible.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, the amounts that are listed on for board approval, those are services we have engaged in the past, so they're represented here as potential services we could look at, not necessarily that we would. They're options.
I think we brought up these same questions at this time last year.
Maybe
No other-
we will again, same time next year. I had to, I'm sorry.
I guess if there's no other questions, we'll do a roll call then.
Yes. Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Philipcheck?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes. On operational items, C1 through C8, are there any items that need to be separated out? If not, I'd like a motion for items C1 through C8.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Becker, Mr. Philipchak. Any discussion?
I have
Yes, Mrs. Becker. Oh, no, Mrs. Shaw.
In item C5, let me just get there with my little computer. I don't know. Here it comes, here it comes. Okay. Okay, in item C5, it is a report of awarded contracts, and it is indicating that the district intends to renew, award, or permit to expire the following contracts. And it isn't clear on the list if in fact these are renewals or new awards. And secondly, many of these have actually been voted upon separately, if I'm not mistaken.
Would you like me to answer?
Sure.
So this is a new requirement that just came out, that the state is requiring us to put this motion in front of you and list all the vendors that were previously awarded contracts, that in the next year, there's a strong possibility that we will renew those contracts or have new contracts with them. So it's a formality. You're not approving contracts with these vendors. You're just acknowledging.
We're just talking about our
Right.
intention to possibly
Right.
renew.
You're
or
acknowledging the fact
initiate a
that
new contract.
you awarded contracts to these vendors, and basically, we went through all the minutes and took out all the vendors and listed them. So,
That'll work,
yeah, so, thanks to the state. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing else to do, so.
Yeah, I
Mr.
don't
Crutchfield,
understand
is it
the
just a
point of-
transparency issue?
Yes,
Okay.
you know, I'm not quite sure what triggered it at the state level, but
Is there any other discussion then on those items? I'm sorry, Mr. McAvoy.
C1. Joe, it looks like I see a new twist on change orders. So the question is, the way I understand it, they're leaving open a to-be-determined change order, and I was thinking maybe at the time that we received the documents, maybe the numbers just weren't there, or how do you want to interpret that for me?
Mr. McAvoy, this comes under the time and material part of the contract. And so when we ask the contractor to do additional things, we already know what the time and material component is, but we don't know yet how much time it's going to take. It's already approved under the base bid, so that's why it's to be determined. We already have a fixed price per hour for what they will do. We know it will not exceed our contract, but we just don't know the exact price to put before the board. That's the dilemma that we're in right now.
And it's some type of addition to the agreed-upon number for the entire project?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It will be an additional change order to the project to add additional fiber optic cable.
But not necessarily at an extra cost.
It'll be an extra cost.
It will.
It will be, but we have a time and material component already in the base bid.
Okay.
So we know that within the bid structure, we already know it will not exceed the total bid for the entire project. So these are more of a customized piece in the bid itself. It allows us the flexibility to add little pieces here and there when we see necessary additions based on the project proceeding.
Following up on Dr. Leslie, is there a top part of how expensive it could be, or a low part on how it?
Oh, absolutely. We would take a look at all the components within the bid to make sure the bid was not exceeded, and make sure that the actual, what the board had approved as an entire scope of the project was not exceeded.
So it won't go over a certain amount?
It won't go over the
2%?
funding available for the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Crutchfield, you'd like to?
it's just important to note that a change directive is us authorizing or telling the contractor to move forward, so it doesn't stop the project, and they will later become change orders, and you'll vote on that. You'll see that on a future agenda. And all change directives and change orders are reviewed by the architect and monitored as work is going on. So it's not an open check to say, oh, you know, run with it.
So under a change directive, do they start the work?
Yes. Once it's approved by the architect and the board, they can continue with the change directive, and then it becomes a change order once it's finalized.
Mrs. Shu, one of the things that happens is when we move on a project like this, there might be pieces that we look at that we say, when we go into the field, we need to fix that, we need to move that, especially with renovations. And so the directive's given to the contractor to move forward so the project doesn't slow down, just because of the timing of the meetings and getting the documentation through the approval of the architects. but we already know because of that base bid, time and material on each component, that we know we're not going to exceed that funding.
Mr. McAvoy.
I'm still, let's go to C4. District has solicited bids, bid specs were sent to 3 vendors with 1 vendor responding. Is that the same vendor we're using last year?
Yes, it is.
And this is, so with regard to maintenance work on all of our vehicles, this one vendor takes care of that.
Yes. We also have a state contract vendor that does some of the trucks and smaller vehicles. On-site does a lot of the transportation.
Right, so when you say on-site, they're not bringing a series of mechanics to this physical plant to do the work. We send our buses to their physical plant, which is on Edgeboro Road, just down from where our new plant is going to be?
The vendor's name is On-Site Fleet.
Okay, so that's C4,
Can I
and...
add on?
Sure, please.
So
We're
on
on
the-
C4.
On C4, why is there only one bidder?
Would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Yeah, we advertise it in the paper, and then vendors will request the bid package. So in this case, 3 vendors requested the bid package, and only 1 chose to bid.
Yeah, so when that-
Unfortunately, we can't control how many people
Yeah.
respond.
So our normal process is we advertise, and then whoever comes.
Right.
And
And if
if
we,
only 1 comes, we don't say, gee, maybe that's not competitive, and,
there's very specific reasons why we can reject the bid. If it's over budget, that's a reason, but it has to be significantly over budget, and we have to be prepared to justify that if it's contested. If there's any material defects, we can reject it, but just because only 1 vendor responded is not.
yeah, it just seems like this is
a
not a
reason.
very unique service, so vehicle maintenance, that I would imagine it would be a robust market. So
Um,
why is this one so?
Because it is limited because of our transportation vehicles. Not every repair shop can handle a 54-passenger bus or has the expertise to repair and comply with the state inspections and regulations. So,
And this one's right on Edgeboro Road.
yeah, it is local. So,
Joe, may I follow up on that? When you have them inquire about the 3 bids that the vendors saw our ad and they said, send us the information, do we follow up on the 3 bidders why they didn't submit?
No,
So we never know why they never submitted?
correct. Yeah. And that, I don't think it's under our purview to ask why. If they request, they might see something in the bid spec, they might not be able to comply with the bid bond requirement, which is required by law, the standard minimum wage rate. So there's a number of factors that, right off the bat, they might say, okay, it's not worth it, or obviously, we pay after receiving the invoice and service, they might not want to wait for that. So there's a number of reasons.
If I can add also, obviously I can't speak to this specific vendor or this bid, but since these are public documents and everyone can find out how much they're actually being paid, so sometimes potential vendors will look at it, they'll figure out what they need to make, and all they need to do is take a look or find out what this district has been paying in years past to determine it's just not worth their while. So they could very easily, without even bidding, they'll know whether it's worth it for them. So sometimes that limits who would want to bid for a very specific issue such as this one.
Thank you.
Mr. McAvoy.
And finally, on C6, let me just final comment on C4 with regard to truck repairs and bus repairs. They're just not out there. And I would think that this particular vendor is taking care of all the trucks that are probably coming down Edgeboro Road on a regular basis. I think automobile repair shops in general, run by the father and son, is a dying business, unfortunately. But in the C6, we see once again that there are no bids for custom cafeteria equipment and related work at East Brunswick High School. I would think that there would be a number of people looking to get in on this type of work, but the question I wrote down when reviewing the material here was, what is this with regard to the custom cafeteria equipment work that's going on at the high school and the related work that was given to the Denver Equipment Company?
The this project was put out to bid 2 different times with no bidders. The scope of the work will consist of painting walls and floor tile. So this is something last year before the end of the school year, we tried to get contractors to respond to, but there was no response. So this is basically a negotiation with a successful contractor.
It seems like here that we've not,
Seems here we've not yet gotten an amount from this one. So how do we set parameters that say, well, we're only going to go to a certain amount?
We do have an amount.
We do have an amount.
That was updated. So just so everybody's aware, the base contract is $68,042.90.
Okay.
And there's a $13,000 allowance for unforeseen work. So the total being awarded is $81,042.90.
And who arrived at that number?
That was based on negotiations between the district and the
So
vendor.
So with one responsive bidder, it becomes a negotiation?
We had no responsive bidders twice. And the law states after you go out to bid twice
We
and
just
nobody
pick.
responds.
We just pick.
We can go into active
Okay,
negotiations.
Okay, now I understand what happened here.
Dr. Valesky, will this also, when we did our cafeteria tours, is this going to change any of the physical lineups of how the high school kids are getting their lunches, or is it really just a cleanup of the existing cafeteria?
Mr. McAvoy, the actual serving lines will remain as they are. What's going to change is the efficiency of the seating of the students. There's going to be a combination of movable tables and seating that fold up and can be moved out of the way to create an open space. Then they're going to also be bar height chairs and basically bar level countertop in certain areas of the cafeteria. So it kind of mixes it up. It changes elevations and just creates a more dynamic environment in the cafeteria. It allows more seating for students. It allows more room for the students that are in there. And one of the things that we were passionate about is putting electric charging stations in the cafeteria so students can charge their devices when they're at lunch.
That was going to be my last question.
I'm glad I answered it then.
That's right.
Michelle, they are not going to have the booths along the side, which is where I believe was your
It's all
favorite
good.
spot.
No, the tables, the raised tables, that's really cool.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't want to graduate now, you want to come back?
I'm not sure that's right.
I just don't see that happening.
I have a choice.
We can change that tomorrow.
Any other questions on the C items? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? On our financial items, I'd like a motion for items D1 through D9.
So moved.
Mrs. Becker and Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Chu.
I have a question on BA Child Nutrition Services. On that one, I recall at the beginning of the year, we had said that the vendor, that there was a guaranteed profit to the district. So when I look at, as we're nearing the end of the school year, and they're still negative kind of year-to-date, and I'm not seeing a monthly positive that's going to be enough to overcome their year-to-date. So where do they project end of the year, and what does that mean for what they expected to contribute to the budget?
So the one thing to note, the P&L that's in your packet is the district P&L. It's the consolidated. Aramark has their own P&L. There are certain costs that we're responsible for, any new purchases of equipment, maintaining equipment, certain salaries. Their costs are separated, we combine them. They're going to hit their target. I've been reassured of that, and we do monitor their financials on a monthly basis, and we have Advocate that also monitors their financial operations. So they're going to hit their cost. This year, we did have additional costs due to replacement of equipment and a lot of maintenance of equipment, because if you recall, our elementary schools were run as a satellite operation. So we weren't using a lot of the equipment the way they're used now when you're doing a full operation, cooking all the food fresh in those locations. So we did have some additional startup costs. And another thing to note with the P&Ls, the true-up numbers will come in June. and we expect to be okay in some
So
of
their
the additional
contribution is
costs.
coming in.
Aramark's going to be fine, hitting their mark, and we're not seeing anything unexpected on our P&L.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on any of those D items? I think we need to do a roll call on this.
Mrs. Becker? Yes. Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Philipcheck?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break before we proceed to the E items. I'd like a motion to go into a closed session, whereas the Board of... We're going to move on then to our personnel items. I'd like a motion to accept items E1 through E3. Mrs. Shaw?
Later.
Mrs. Becker, is there any discussion? Then we'll take a roll call.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Abstain.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Philipcheck?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes. I'd like a motion for item E4, ratification of contract for the period July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, East Brunswick Education Association, and the contract between them and the Board of Education.
So moved.
Mr. Philipcheck, Mrs. Becker, is there any discussion?
Mrs. Howard?
Yes. As chair of the negotiations team, I'd like to acknowledge my fellow board members, Todd Simmons, Barry Carr, Mary Shaw, for all the hard work that they did and their sincere desire to negotiate a fair contract. I would also like to congratulate Dana Zimbicki on her outstanding leadership with her team. I thought we met well, and I can't remember the last time we were voting on a contract before the end of school. So I think we're all very excited about that, and I'm just thrilled. So thank you all.
Here, here.
Any other comments? I just want to echo that. I think it's a true tribute to both sides on the negotiating table who came in with the right attitude, that the end result was that this is what we do, or it's a negotiated contract. We didn't always agree. Most sides don't always agree. But at the end of the day, it was important that we come to a fair and equitable solution, and that's what we did. It should be, frankly, a lesson for Congress and the state on actually how to do labor negotiations. But we're thrilled that we're being able to finish up this year on a high note. I don't recall ever getting to that point this early, and it's a tribute to a lot of hard work, and we look forward to a really encouraging a new year. And again, I want to echo Mrs. Howard and congratulate Dana on what was really a terrific negotiations and true example of leadership.
Roll call.
We'll take that as a roll call.
Mrs. Becker?
Yes.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Mrs. Lax?
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Philipcheck?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
President Cohen?
Yes. Is there... Thank you.